Bonjour à tous. La grande famille, c'est quoi? C'est une conversation où j'invite des personnes au grand cœur. Vous y retrouverez des femmes et des hommes de multiples nationalités qui ont un point commun, celui de partager un morceau de leur vie. Alors sans plus attendre, je laisse place au podcast de la grande famille. Hello Dana.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, but in English.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast La Grande Famille.
I'm excited to be here.
It's a long story between us.
Mm-hmm.
To start, Dana, you're an American girl. You have 28 years old. And
almost 28.
Almost 28.
I'm still 27.
And you have been au pair in France, but can you please explain us your track and how did you live this experience? Where do you come from? We would like to know more about you.
Yeah, so I graduated from university when I was 22, like many Americans do. I graduated with a degree in communications, and I really didn't want to go to work after. I was very tired from school, from the 4 years of college, university, and I really needed a new experience. I had a friend who was moving across the country, across the United States. So I decided to follow him, and I ended up in Colorado, which I really didn't like. I realized pretty quickly that it just wasn't the place for me. I really missed being near the ocean. And I felt like the kind of culture that I found on one side of my own country was just not really the same as where I grew up, in a way that felt kind of strange to me, because I had this feeling like, oh, I'm in my own country, but I feel like really foreign. And so I took a trip to visit my father in San Sebastian in Spain. And I decided that my goal was going to be to try to move to San Sebastian, Spain, or really anywhere near San Sebastian, just the Basque Country in general. But I didn't speak Spanish, so I decided to start some Spanish classes, try to learn Spanish. I had like basics of Spanish, and I was having a really hard time finding a host family in the Basque region in Spain, because I didn't speak any Spanish and I didn't speak Basque. And I found you. You wrote to me and you were like, hello, Dana. We're a family. We're French, though. We're not in Spain, but we're still in the Basque Country, really close. And in this town called Biarritz. And I already knew Biarritz because I had been there on my trip to San Sebastian. So I said, absolutely, of course. I love the city. It's very beautiful. So I decided to make another large move, far from where I grew up. But instead of being in my own country, I moved across the ocean to Biarritz. And I was really happy to be near the ocean. And also this kind of sense of not belonging and feeling foreign. I think it's easier to live when it's not in your own country. It's
Really?
easier to tell yourself, like, oh, I'm from a different country, so obviously this isn't the same as it is where I'm from. But there's also things that I think that are more similar to where I grew up in the US about French people than different parts in the US. Like, for example, like, I think French people are very direct, and where I'm from, we're also very direct. Like, if we don't like something, we're not going to we might try to be, we're not going to be mean, but we're going to be like, not really, no thank you. Whereas like there are other people, other Americans who would maybe say something more like, oh, I love it, but it's not real. And I find that French people are very direct. So that part was a lot easier for me to live.
I'm surprised that you say that French people are direct.
I think so.
You think so? Because it's not the reputation they have is not the characteristic of the French culture to be direct, but more that not saying directly what we think about, and but it's
See,
very interesting.
it's not the reputation that I think French people have in America. Like in the
Okay.
US, I think that we think of French people as very like I think it's something that gets misinterpreted as rudeness a lot. It's very associated with Parisians, because I think that that's like a lot of the French people that Americans know. But it's not rude. Some people say it's like, oh, it's rude, but I don't think it's necessarily rude. I just think it's this. I think in many cities, like large cities, people just don't have a lot of time. So it's like, I want to just tell you like what's going on and then move past it. Cause like, if not, I don't have time for this basically. So I do think that maybe, I mean, it's hard to characterize any country because people are so different, but I do think that I feel more at home in a lot of ways here than I have in other parts of my own country.
Ah, really? And
Yeah.
okay, to if we come back to to your move and your, I would like you explain us how you make the decision to leave your country, because it's a strong decision in life to leave his home country, and can you explain us what was the steps to before the moment of when you think about it and the moment you are in the flight and you're landing in France?
I don't really think I thought about it that much. Like, I just think that I think I've always been someone that like I'll make a decision based on what I want to do at the time. And then like, if I'm not happy about it later, I'll change it. But like, there was never any second guess for me. I mean, it's kind of how I ended up moving out to Colorado in the first place, right? Like, I just thought, oh, I don't want to be here, so I'll go there because that makes sense. And then I got there and I was like, I don't like this. And I think with France, I kind of did the same thing. I was just like, I'm gonna go to France because like I really like it there. It's somewhere that I visited many times. I've always felt at home when I'm there. And now I'm here and I like it. And it works for me. So it's not, I don't think that I really have thought about it as much as thought about it deeply as much as I think many people would. I'm more of an underthinker than an overthinker.
So you arrived in France as an au pair in 2019.
Yeah.
Okay, and can you explain us how your family and what you did after your au pair stay?
My own family, like my biological family.
Yes, we can talk about that. Yes, yes, yes. But I was thinking, but saying about talking about your au pair, your
My au pair
host. Yes,
families.
your host
My host
family.
families. Okay.
But after you will
Um,
explain us how you lived with your biological family and everything.
yeah. So I arrived in 2019. You and your husband and your children
Yeah,
came to pick me up in Spain because I arrived in Spain actually. I didn't.
yeah.
I arrived in Spain, not France. So you came to pick me up, and you drove me back to your house. Then yeah, I had a really good experience. Looking back, I think at the time there were some things that I was struggling with, but looking back, it was a really good experience. So
But can you explain us what was the thing
what
you
was
was?
hard?
Yes.
I think that analyzing it now, I would say that what I was struggling the most with was loneliness and just not having like a large community of people that understood me. Not having any like, not really having any like a group of friends. I had one friend and my ex, my partner at the time, and I did have a few friends, but they were a few years younger than me, so they were good company. But it was hard to not have this sense of community of people from my own country. things that felt familiar. And so that was hard. But that being said, like I do, your family was awesome. But at the end of the day, you and your husband are older than me and you're my host parents.
Mhm.
You're not my friends, and your children are the kids I'm watching, and they're like younger sisters to me, but again, they're not my friends. So that was really hard, but it definitely got better the second year when I made more friends that were very similar to me with similar goals, similar ideas, similar outlooks, also within like a year or two of my own age, and people that could mentor me in like a reciprocal way as a friend does, and not someone that I felt like I was relying on 100% of the time for advice or information, and people that were also not relying on me 100% of the time, but really like a reciprocal relationship. But that was definitely the hardest part, I think, looking back. And there were some really awesome girls in the area. It's just I think combination of ages, location, timetables, our schedules. I mean, when you're older, making friends is really hard. And then trying to do it in another country is even harder. So,
Yes, and what were your tips to deal with this loneliness that you are talking about?
definitely signing up for language classes or different sorts of activities in the area. That's probably going to be the best. Also, looking up different kinds of like, different au pair groups on Facebook, on the internet, or different language assistant groups in the area, because there are language assistants all over the country, and they're usually anywhere from like 21, 22 to, I think the age limit is like 35. So that's really like a large range of ages. And to be honest, they're usually in the same boat, like really looking to make friends. And if you're American, I think there's over 1,000 language assistants across the country. So that's a lot of people. Yeah, I took a language class my first year. That was really awesome. But another huge challenge when I was an au pair was COVID, because that hit like 5 months after I arrived. So really I had like my first 2 months, took a vacation for Le Toussaint, then had like a few weeks, vacances Noël, then a few weeks, the first February vacation, and then COVID. So
Yeah, you lived the COVID as an au pair.
yeah, so that was, and I mean, I will say I probably had the best COVID experience of any au pair that I have talked to, because you gave me a really nice decision to go live with my boyfriend at the time. So it really helped. I think it would have been a lot if I had been in the family, but I forget what I was even saying.
That you had the vacation,
Mm-hmm.
and so finally it spent quickly for you, because in February we were in the COVID, and after you went to your boyfriend
Yeah,
home.
my boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And then I came back in May, so it did go very quickly. And then I left in July. So I mean, I had like 2 months cut out of my au pair experience that otherwise I would not have had. But COVID did complicate things in terms of
For everybody.
I mean, for everyone. But specifically about what I was saying about making friends, getting
Yeah.
out, doing different activities, because then everything was closed.
Yeah.
So it was like, so really your only option to make friends was online. And I mean, one good thing is that everyone was kind of in the same boat. So everyone was trying to make friends online. So there was more opportunity to do so.
And
But yeah, that was really hard. And I moved to a new city during it. So
yeah, okay. What are you learning about this period? Au pair, COVID, it was a strong period for you in terms of change.
yeah, what did I learn? Wow, that's a good question. I learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot about French culture. That's actually one of the best things I think that I learned, is because I did 2 years of au pair, and then I became a language assistant after. And the language assistant program is really good for what it is, which is a program that connects foreign young people who have a college degree and speak another language other than French natively with a school. They connect them. And so it's kind of like a temporary work program. But one thing that they don't do is hold your hand and walk you through everything. They kind of leave you to do a lot of things on your own. And so it's really great if you have kind of an idea of what the country is like. It can be really hard if you don't. I was really, really grateful to have spent 2 years in the country with French adults and French children. And I had an idea of what things were like. I wasn't making mistakes that I was when I first arrived. Like, let me see if I can come up with an example. Oh, well, this is a huge one. When you arrive as a language assistant, you have like a month or maybe less to open a bank account, apply for Social Security, and open a cell phone, get all of that set up. But in France, you need a bank account to get an apartment. You need a phone number to get a bank account, and you need it's all a circle. So you need a lease to get a bank account to get a phone number, and a phone number to get an apartment. So it's all this circle. But me, I arrived, I already had my phone number, I already had my bank account. And because I had already been living in the city, I already had an apartment because I asked the neighbor for an apartment. So there is this kind of thing that really helped me when I decided to be a language assistant and then further to pursue my studies. There's often things that because I'm in school to be a teacher. And so there's often things that I think about. I think like, oh, you know what? I do remember the first year when I was an au pair, and one of the girls' teachers was also the principal of the school. So like, it really gave me this idea of what the school system is like, having accompanied students through both public and private as an au pair. Yeah, I don't know. I think you just get like a really good foundation of the culture. And it kind of feels in a way like when you're living with a host family, it feels like you're a kid and your parents are describing like really basic things that you would have learned if you were a French kid, but you weren't a French kid. So you have like a host family who's like, oh no, you can't just go to the prefecture. You have to do your things online, and it will take a few months, instead of having to do that yourself and realize like, oh no, I actually can't do that. I have to wait. There's so much that you don't have to learn by yourself because you have someone accompanying you. But then those are really like the pragmatic things that I learned. I think there are things that I learned about myself too. I'm not ready to have children.
Yes, really?
Yeah, that's still a few years off. Yeah, I was an au pair for children from the ages of 3 to, I guess, 10, 11.
So because it's important, I think, to explain that you were au pair 1 year, and it was during the COVID on the year 2019 to 2020. And after, you have follow up with a new host family.
Right.
So your first family lived in Biarritz, and
right.
And can you explain us your second family?
Yes. So my first family was 2 girls in Biarritz, and they were older at the time, I think 7 and 9. And then my second host family was 3 boys in Bordeaux. They were all 3 years apart, so ages 3, 6, and 9.
Okay.
And so all in all, I was an au pair for children from 3 to 10 once the experience was over, because the oldest girl turned 10 during the experience.
So it was super interesting for you to live in 2 different cities in France. And is there any difference, I think, and could you explain us the difference of the culture and the mindset, perhaps, because there is part of the culture and part of the mindset of the family you live with, doesn't it?
Yeah. So my first family in Biarritz as a city is very, it's very seasonal, where the summer season is definitely the busiest season. You have a lot of tourists, a lot of surfers. The beaches are packed. Beautiful, beautiful nature, beautiful beaches. And then the winter time is very rainy. Not a lot of people. Everyone drives everywhere. It's a city that is hard to get around by bike. You either need to have a scooter or a car. But even I recommend a car because the region is spread out. So it's also a place that is very nature oriented. Like often I would go to the beach with the girls, or we'd go to a park, or we'd walk some of the trails that are along the coastline. Um, and then, yeah, I moved to Bordeaux, which is obviously a city, really easy to get around the entire city by transit. I haven't driven in like a year. um, that's not even true. I drove a few weeks ago. Um, but I think that's a special case. I'm the only one of my friends that drives sometimes here. And much more, I mean, it's a city, so it's much more, things are faster, more things are open late, things are open on Sundays, whereas
Yeah.
in Biarritz, nothing's open on Sundays.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, you're going to stay at home. You're not going to leave. You're going to go on a hike with your family. People here, I think people here, they go to here, I'm still in Bordeaux. So people in Bordeaux, they go to the beach, but it's not the same as living at the beach. Yeah, the culture. I mean, also you have to say that that Biarritz is in the Basque Country. So you have the Basque culture, which famously, self-admittedly, Basque people will admit this because my family is partially Basque too. And they tend to be very family oriented and very community oriented, and it can be a region that is hard to break into and to meet people and to make friends, and less in France, I think, than on the Spanish side. But it's definitely a place that I've heard many people say that unless you're taking classes or doing activities, it's really hard to just meet people organically. Whereas in Bordeaux, there's so many students. It's very international.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like when I arrived in Bordeaux, I had to almost fight with people to speak French with me. Even sometimes, like, people still speak English to me, and I'm like, I speak French. Like, can we just speak French?
Please. I'm French now. So you spent 1 year as an au pair in Biarritz, 1 year as an au pair in Bordeaux, and after, what did you do after 2 years as au pair?
I became a language assistant.
Okay.
I became a language assistant for the at the high school, actually, like right next to where I was an au pair for the second year. Really funny because the high school that I work in still, one of the buildings looks over into the courtyard of an elementary school. And that elementary school is where my host kids go to school.
Okay.
So sometimes I would be teaching in the school and I would look into the courtyard and I would see them like running around with their friends.
Great.
So that was cute.
All right. 1 year as a teaching assistant?
Yes, well, 1 year as a teaching assistant, and I'm still a teaching assistant, but my two projects now are master's student and teaching assistant. So It's a lot of work.
And how old are the students, your students, when you teach?
I'm at lycée.
Okay.
But I'm also, because I'm studying to be an English teacher, I have to be in second degré.
Okay. All
because they don't have like English discipline in premier degré.
Okay. Okay. So you have how many hours do you teach by week?
I teach 12 hours a week.
12 hours a week. Okay. So it's very little.
Yeah. As a language assistant, you're there for 12 hours a week. Well, no, you're teaching for 12 hours a week. Sometimes people in their school teach more than, or not. You teach for 12 hours a week. Sometimes you're at the school for more than 12 hours. It depends on what your schedule is like. Okay. Similar to a teacher.
Okay. What was the process between au pair and teaching assistant? Did you come back to the US?
Yeah, you have to go back to the US to apply for a teaching assistant visa. It's you apply with a program called with the in so for the US you apply with TAPIF, which
Yeah,
is teaching assistant program in France, and
yeah.
that is the name for I believe Americans and Canadians.
Hmm.
But other countries have the same program or a similar program because it all goes through Éducation nationale.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the country does with Éducation nationale and what kind of program they have in place. I know there are some countries where like you have to have gone to like a certain university or you have to have it. Yeah, the process for applying depends specifically on your country. But then once you're a teaching assistant, you can reapply for a second year if you're an English assistant or I forget the other languages. There's a few languages that will take an assistant for a second year, and a few only will take an assistant for 1 year. Oh, but they have assistants for English, Spanish, German, Italian, Portuguese, Arabic, Chinese, Russian. Has to be your native language, I believe, or one of your native languages. And so, yeah, I had to go back to the U.S. Because it's a very specific visa. It's a specific application, and so it's non-renewable in France. So I did it for. I stopped au pairing in July of 20. I'm getting my years mixed up here. 2021. I stopped in July of 2021, and then I went back to the US in August of 2021, got my visa, came back for the teaching assistant program, which starts on the 1st of October. So you come back in like mid-September. And then I stayed until May of 2022. Then I was back in the US for 3 months this summer. So really long time. I worked and everything, had a job. And actually I was a nanny. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
And
So
I wanted to ask you if to be au pair has helped you for your next job, the following job after be au pair. If
yeah, well, I think so because I think that being an au pair has helped because my ultimate goal is to be an English teacher. So I think that when people see my motivational letter, there are some words that I don't even know how to say in English
yes,
anymore because like
yes, motivational letter in French it's lettre de motivation. And
no, but I want like the
it doesn't work.
projet professionnel.
Okay, okay,
So because I had to write like a large like projet professionnel for my applications,
yeah,
and when they saw my timeline, my experiences, I think it makes sense that I was an au pair, worked with kids, realized I wanted to teach English. Obviously, the only way to teach English in France is to work with collège and lycée, but even so, like one of the one of my host children was in like CM2, fifth grade, or no, CM1, which is very close to CCM,
mhm,
and even in the same cycle. So
mhm.
it does actually make sense. There is a link there, and then I think so. I think it all makes sense. But being a nanny this summer was really funny because it was the first time that I was spending so much time with one kid that spoke the same language as me.
Yes. And you prefer to take care about children who speak the same language as you, or a different language?
I'm not gonna lie, it was really nice to. It's not even the same language, but this specific child had a lot of these international experiences as well. He had traveled before, and so it was kind of funny to be working with someone that has the same cultural references as me, watched the same shows, movies as I did when I was a kid. And in fact, this child was very obsessed with some Disney movies and wanted to hear all the lyrics in English, whereas the French kids want to hear the lyrics in French, and I don't know the lyrics in French. And learning the lyrics to Disney movies that I loved as a kid in French does not interest me at all, because that movie for me is not in French at all. So I don't want to listen to it in French. It's going to stay in English. It's always been in English. And so it was, fun to sing these like Disney songs in my native language. And then also to hear about, a small child's international experiences as well. And to be back in my home country for such an extended period of time, for the first time in 3 years. And then to be working with a child that had also traveled a lot in their lifetime.
Yeah. And when you were au pair, did you speak in French or in English to your host kids?
The first year it was entirely in French. The second year I was working with a child who was so young, because often I would have the 3-year-olds just by themselves. By himself, I think I said it was a boy. And so when we would be just the two of us, I would always try to speak in English. And, by the time I left, he really understood me. And I would say, come, he would come.
Yeah.
I would say, are you hungry? He'd say, oui ou non.
Yeah. Okay. And how did you do? How did you do to be respected by children? And it was not so difficult when you don't speak the same language as them to have some authority. Okay.
I think that children that are surrounded by, a good and loving family, like my host kids were, I think that because they love the adults in their home, they wanted to respect me, because I think for them it was just like having a new adult around. Again, it's a little bit interesting. I think that when I saw my host kids acting out, it was to get attention from their parents more than it was a question of not respecting me.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I just had to remind myself
Okay.
that, when there was a problem with one of the girls, it was probably because, she wanted to talk to her mom or her dad, and it wasn't really about me.
Yeah, I understand, and I think it depends on people, and when for some people it's not a question, and it's not it's just a behavior, and I think and I know you did it very well. What are the education principles in French that have surprised you?
The like what do you mean, like the way that
Is there
kids are
any
raised?
yes? Is there any customs that habits
About
that
children?
yes that parents have with their children that are so different from the U.S. culture, or is perhaps it's not a culture gap, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's a hard question to answer, because I think that even in the US,
Yeah.
I was raised so differently from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people next door.
Yeah, for
So
sure, yeah.
I don't think that I have a grasp on what US
Yeah.
parenting culture
Yeah.
is. But like, for example, something that Americans find really surprising would be like children like staying out really late with their parents and like going to a bar or something. Like in the US, like children are not ever at a bar. Whereas sometimes in Biarritz, I would see like a late night thing. There was always a group of children like hanging out on the side, like throwing around a ball. Their parents were all drinking. Like
Yeah.
that is just like, for me at the beginning, that was really, I was like, it's so late. It's like 10 o'clock. Like what? These kids aren't in bed.
Okay.
And then another thing that like, I think that I had like a really punishment and consequences based childhood. I did something and my mom would take away a privilege of mine. Like, I would do something wrong and no TV for a week. And I think that, being invited into a home where you have to, you do have to respect the way that parents are parenting their children. Because at the end of the day, like, you're there to help the children, but they're your host kids they're your host kids in a very active way for 1 year or less. Whereas like, these are the parents of the children for their entire life. So you have to respect the way that they run their house and the way that they discipline their children. I mean, to a certain extent, like if there's something really, really wrong, you have to you have to bring that to someone's attention. But I mean, I think that's a very extreme case.
Yeah.
I do think that there is some sense of, coming to terms with realizing like, oh, maybe like the way that I was raised is not the best way to raise children, or maybe the way that I am used to, I would have reacted to this isn't the best way. And no one has all the answers, so you
But
don't know. But
you don't know, but do you think that it helps you to get some maturity and to have some
yeah,
understanding about your own life and your own track?
yeah, perspective definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, like, for example, your parenting style, you're not as severe as my mother was. So I think there were, some times where you were just kind of like, you know what, I don't want to fight about it. Like, this is just probably not the most important fight that I can pick with my daughter, like, this week. Whereas like my mom would have been like, okay, I'm ready to fight. Like, let's go. Like, like let's definitely fight about this. And it would just become like this whole thing, and I would be upset, and then I wouldn't talk to my mom. And I think that, later in life, it hurt me and my mom's relationship. So kind of seeing that, there's some other mothers that don't need to pick every fight with their daughter. It made me realize like, oh yeah, maybe that would have been better, or maybe that will be me when I'm a mom. Or
All right. And can you talk about your biological family, Dana?
yeah, my dad lives very close to you. My dad lives like an hour from you. So that's
Your
also something.
your parents
My
were separated when you're young.
my
Yeah.
parents were divorced when I was 2, so I really grew up having my parents in separate places. And that's also something that I think was very interesting for me as an au pair, to see, to really live a family that was together and not separated. Because even a lot of my friends' parents growing up were separated, or didn't necessarily have like good relationships. And so to kind of see this like functional family with like 2 people that are married that still love each other, and that like love having their kids, and like to have everyone together, it was kind of like, oh, you know what, like maybe every marriage doesn't end in divorce.
Yeah.
um, so it's kind of like nice to have like another role model when you're older and a little bit more mature. But then, yeah, so my dad lives very close to you with my stepmother.
Yeah.
Actually, they live, yeah, in San Sebastian, which is what inspired me to go out to the region in the first place. And then my mother still lives in the town that I grew up in.
And you're single girl, so you didn't have a brother and sister, and so you
Yeah,
had
I'm an only
decided
child.
to be au pair in a family with parents who are living together and which were kids. So even if you were not used to grow up with kids around you, or to grow up with children, brother and sister, it was a
Yeah,
huge challenge for you.
that's true. One thing I will say about your family is that I think that your kids have a mature outlook, in the sense that they like doing things with adults that adults like doing. So I think was something, maybe I didn't always understand the sibling relationship, but both of your kids really always liked being involved in what I was interested in, because it was interesting for them. Whereas like some children, not any of my host kids, but some children are, very much like, I want to do kid stuff. I don't want to do adult stuff. Like, adult stuff is boring, kid stuff only. And I mean, it's understandable when you have 3, 4, 5 kids in the house, that their whole world is kids. But I do think that, there is many, I mean, you've had many au pairs,
Yeah.
so your kids are always very used to it. That was cool too, because I think that that's something you generally see a lot more with only children, because they're so used to spending time with adults that only children tend to like to do adult things because it's all they know. So it is nice when you have children with siblings, where all of the siblings also like to, do adult, they're interested in, adult hobbies, or they want to learn more about it, or they're just curious and have this openness to experiences that aren't necessarily marketed towards children.
All right. To conclude, Do you think that this au pair experience helped you or was a good choice for you in your life?
Absolutely. I think it helped me gain clarity for what I wanted to do
Okay.
after. After school, I was just so burnt out that I couldn't even think about what I wanted to do after. And I couldn't really think clearly about my goals or my motivations. All I knew is that I couldn't do any more school. I just couldn't take it anymore. I did not want to go work a desk job. I did not want to go behind a computer. I did not want to pretend to be an adult. I wanted to do fun things, and I wanted to experience more of the world. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, au pair it's a good way to have a lot of responsibility because you're taking care of someone else's children, but it's not too serious. You have to be responsible, but it as a job is not serious. I mean, you're going to be like running around playing with kids all day, and the people you're talking to are children. So your conversations are, like who's the meanest kid in the class?
So,
who's the funniest kid in the class? So
can we say that it's fun?
it's fun.
Oh, right.
It's fun. It's fun, and you need to have a certain sense of maturity, but it's kind of silly in a good way. But
Okay.
I think so. I think that having that time, that was just like 2 years of living a lot of new experiences with a certain sense of maturity, kind of gave me a motivation to figure out what I wanted to do, because you're also not like working a ton. You're working like 25, 30 hours a week. So you do still have time on the side to think about what you want to do. And yeah, that really helped me. And like I already said, it gave me the foundations to continue living in this country. I would say that after being an au pair, it's extremely easy to integrate into a French school. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have some tips or some advice to give to people, to US girls who would love to be au pair and they are still thinking about it?
Yeah. I think that au pair isn't being an au pair is not it's not like necessarily like a 1 year commitment
Yeah,
in a host family.
that's true.
You can do it for 2 months in the summer, three
Yeah,
months in the summer.
yeah,
You can do it for 3 months any time of the year, as long as you find a family that wants to take you for
yeah,
3 months.
yeah,
There are even people offering, or not offering, but looking for an au pair experience as short as like 2 weeks over like a vacation. I've seen that before. And you can also do it while you're studying. Living in a host family could be a great way. Have this home base while you're doing school. You have a lot of options. I mean, you have to remember that it's not a traditional job in the sense that if you don't fit this mold,
Mhm.
you won't be taken. You're working with people. So as long as you find people that are going to work with you and that fit what you're looking for, and you fit what they're looking for, it can really work. And I will also say that I think a lot of people have this idea that being an au pair is having a free apartment in Paris, in the nicest place in Paris, having a ton of pocket money on the side, and watching kids for 1 or 2 days, and mostly living alone and living this like young life in Paris. And that is definitely some people's au pair experience, but that's not the only au pair experience. I think that you can have an absolutely wonderful experience in the smallest town in the middle of the Alps, as long as you like to ski, right? Like that's what it's something like that. Like you can have a wonderful experience with a family of surfers in Biarritz. Even if you don't surf, they'll probably teach you.
Yeah,
Or
the good way is that you can feed it has the life you wanted to live.
right,
Yeah,
just like every family in the U.S. is not the same. Not every family in France is the
yeah,
same.
yeah.
So I think there's something for everyone.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dana.
Of course.
It was a big pleasure to listen to you and to have this hour together.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's been a while
Yeah,
since we've chatted.
yeah. Take care.
Yes, you as well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, with pleasure, and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. C'est la fin de cet épisode. Je vous remercie pour votre écoute. Comme à chaque fois, j'ai pris un réel plaisir à mieux connaître notre invité. Et si vous aussi, vous aimez la grande famille, je vous invite à le partager sur les réseaux sociaux et à en parler autour de vous. Et surtout, je vous serai extrêmement reconnaissante de prendre 2 minutes pour mettre un avis 5 étoiles sur la plateforme d'écoute de votre choix. Je vous dis à très bientôt.